welcome into the first episode of what this year I'm going to try to keep going all season and not quit after the first few weeks like I did last year. Bet the Farm with Matthew Grantham. Now, obviously this is the first week of the season. It's going to be a very short episode because I'm not going to be betting the first week of games right now. I'm just going to be giving you my predictions for the season, who I think is going to make the playoffs. I'm going to give you my top 10, and I'm going to give you my Heisman predictions as well as my national championship game and my national championship game winner. Now I'm very excited for this season. I woke up this morning and realized we're like a week in a. No, actually, there's a few games Saturday. Of course, I had to work Saturday, so I'm not going to be able to watch. I'm not going to be able to watch all the games Saturday, but we're not too long away from college football, and it's a time to be excited. It really is. I'm stoked, in case you can't tell, but I'm so ready for college football, and after that, college basketball, but mostly college football. I'm not going to lie. College football, NFL, it's about to be back. But right now, we're just going to jump into some predictions. First, let's start off with my top 10. Coming in at number 10, I have Auburn. Auburn is a team that I think I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they really have that great of a shot at all this year. But a lot of people seem to think that they do. Last year, I thought was their year if they had a shot. They didn't take their opportunity. Obviously, they wiped the field with Alabama. Completely just spanked Alabama. Spanked Georgia the first time around. Spanked both the teams that played for the national championship. And even played a good first half against Clemson. So, played three of the teams that were in the playoffs. So, I mean, nothing to be ashamed of. But, then coming in at number 9. Now, I put this team at number 9 for one reason and one reason only. Because I think they're a super, super, super deep sleeper to make the playoffs. And you're going to be like, this is going to be the one team in my top 10. Well, there's maybe one more that you're going to say, that's not a top 10 team. And this one's going to be the main one that you're going to say, that's not a top 10 team. But this is the reason why I put this in there is because I really think this team could make the playoff. And if they do, I want to be able to take the credit and say I put them in my top 10 because I think they're a deep sleeper to really make it. And I had them in my playoff like as early as last year. I was watching them play and I was like, this is a team they can make the playoff. Whenever I was watching them last season, but they have a really tough schedule this year, and that's Georgia Tech. And I don't think they're going to make the playoff because of their schedule, but I think they could have a really good year. And even finishing 8-4, 9-3 this year would be really good with their schedule. But I put them in my top 10 because I do think they could be considered one of the top 10 teams in the country, even finishing 9-3, 10-2. If they finish 10-2, I think they're a top 10 team in the country, no doubt, with the schedule they have. If they finish 9-3, I mean, if they finish, I mean, I think they're potentially a top 10 team in the country. That's why I put them in at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is another ACC team, Miami. Miami obviously had a really good season last season before dropping their last 2. Then played their bowl game. I don't even remember who they played in their bowl game, to be honest with you. I remember they lost to Pitt in their last game of the regular season and then got wiped by Clemson. I can't even remember who they played in their bowl game. I wish I could look it up, but I'm recording on my phone. Wasn't Penn State? No, Penn State played USC the year before. Either way, Miami does return a lot of talent, so we'll see what they do this year. I got them at number 8. Number 7 is another team that went undefeated in the regular season. Of course, Miami did lose their last game, but number 7, Wisconsin, did go undefeated in the regular season before losing in their conference championship game to Ohio State. They return a lot of talent, including running back Jonathan Taylor. So I am going to keep them at number 7. and they are, of course, a college football playoff threat. Coming in at number 6, and everybody above this, everybody from really everybody on this list except for Auburn, I think, is a college football playoff threat. Number 6, Michigan. I believe they're a college football playoff threat. I really do. They have the quarterback situation figured out now. They have a much better quarterback than they have had. So I believe that they're also returning a lot of talent on that defense. So I believe that they have a chance. And I almost had them in there, but there's just too many good teams this year to the point where I couldn't. Number 5, I have Washington just outside the playoff, and that's just because they do have to play Auburn first game of the season. I do think Auburn has the potential to win that game. I do think Washington is the better team, but I think Auburn has the potential to beat them first game of the season. So I had to knock them out of the playoff because I think if you lose that one, they could slip up down the road a couple times, and then they could just be looking just outside the playoff. Coming in at number 4 is Alabama. I have Alabama at number 4 for the simple reason that I don't think that they have things figured out the way they normally do. The quarterback situation is not ideal. I don't trust Tua Tagovailoa, or I can't say his last name, but I don't trust Tua the way that most people do. I honestly like Jalen. I know that he wasn't as great last year as the year before, but I mean he's taken us to the college football playoff 2 years in a row. He's taken us to the national championship game 2 years in a row. The dude, I mean, just because he didn't play perfect in the national championship game, Tua came in there in the second half and all of a sudden we're ready to make him the starter. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, I'm not getting paid the big bucks to make the decision, but that's just my opinion. So I don't think they got it all figured out, and I think it's a good chance that Alabama misses the playoff this year. Obviously, also loses a lot of talent on that great defense, but I really don't know. Maybe it'll get figured out, but that's why I have them at number 4 right now. Coming in at number 3, I have Texas. Texas, I think, has a good shot to go undefeated this year. Perhaps Oklahoma beats them in the Red River rivalry, but I don't think Oklahoma is going to be very good this year. The only reason why I think Oklahoma could potentially beat them is because it's a rivalry game, and because a lot of times whenever Oklahoma's really good, Texas beats Oklahoma. So maybe this year it's the other way around. I think they'll beat USC, so I'm not really worried about Texas too much. I think they'll make it. I think that's the other deep sleeper that I had, but I have good faith in Texas this year, and a lot of people think I'm crazy for that. But coming in at number 2, I have Georgia. I have them as the SEC champions on my list, and they might lose a game. They might lose to Georgia Tech. They might lose to Auburn. I don't know who they might lose to. Heck, they could lose to Alabama in the SEC championship. But in my list, I have them winning. The point is that in this scenario, I have them winning as SEC champions. But that they could lose. They could potentially lose to Georgia Tech, Auburn, teams like that. And number 1, I have Clemson. Of course, you're probably wondering where Clemson was, and they're at number 1. I would stick with Kelly Bryant. If I was them, I would not trust that young quarterback. Kelly Bryant brought them to the playoff last year, and I would stick with him. Now, we're going to go with who do I have in the national championship game and who do I have winning. I'm going to take Clemson over Alabama this year. Obviously, Alabama beat Clemson last year. So we're going to take Clemson over Alabama in the revenge game this year. And then the series would be 2-2 because first time they played, Alabama beat Clemson, then Clemson beat Alabama, then Alabama beat Clemson. Now I have Clemson over Alabama. And then I believe I'm going to take now, this Georgia-Texas game, I'm going to take Georgia over Texas. I'm going to take Georgia over Texas, just the better team. And in the Clemson versus Georgia game, I hope it's a good game. And I'm going to go with I think I'm going to go with Clemson. I'm going to go with Clemson to win the national championship again this year. Georgia loses in the national championship game. Do I want to go with that? Hard decision here. Give me a minute to think. Clemson versus Georgia. I'm going to take Clemson over Georgia. I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to take Clemson over Georgia in a close game. It's going to be a great game. Let's just say that. Let's just hope that. And for my Heisman prediction, I'm going to take Bryce Love. Obviously, he had a good season last year. Stanford running backs are always good. So I'm going to take Bryce Love. That's going to be it for today. It's going to be a pretty short video. I'll be back next week to predict some games against the spread and predict some games straight up. Also going to get some NFL predictions out pretty soon. Maybe film it today and upload it right after this. So thank y'all for watching, if you're watching, and appreciate it. Until next time, this has been Bet the Farmer, Matthew Grantham.